Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are still in the chapter, The Aim of Life, Four Theories of Existence. We are on page 696, beginning with the sentence, The Cosmic Terrestrial View.
As we have seen in this chapter, Sri Aurobindo is going to give us the four theories of existence. Okay, the four theories of existence, the aim of life. So, very broadly speaking, he has told us that the first one is that the ultimate reality is the only thing that exists. You can call it whatever you want, you can call it Satchidananda, you can call it Nirvana, you can call it, but that's the only real thing. The rest is all unreal. Whatever you are experiencing here is not the reality. The second theory is the materialistic theory. The physical world and the cosmos are the only realities. Everything that comes out of it, man, animal, plants, are all products of matter. It is matter that is producing all these things. The third theory of existence is that the physical world is real, but there are also subtle worlds which are real. The subtle worlds also are real, and the aim of life is from the physical world, where there is permanent imperfection, you have to go to the subtle worlds where the possibility of perfection is there. And the last one is Sri Aurobindo's own philosophy, which says that all the planes of consciousness from the highest to the lowest are all real, but there is a gradation of reality. Reality is not one thing in black and white. There are many grey areas, half realities, semi-realities, quarter realities, seeming realities, all these things are there, and the world is real, the middle worlds are real, spiritual worlds, as well as the final transcendental world also is real. And the aim of life is to manifest the divine here in the physical world. In the third theory of the aim of life, the individual has to escape from the physical world and go into the subtle worlds where he can live permanently if he wants, or he can disappear into the infinite, or he can also take birth again. But the nature of the physical world is fixed, it is imperfect. So these are the four theories of existence, and Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is that the physical world is not permanently imperfect. There is imperfection here, there is ignorance, but it is evolving slowly and going towards. The divine is, the ultimate reality is slowly manifesting himself in small doses. First of all matter, then life, then matter, then mind, and then the next will be supermind. This is it has not yet descended, but that's a theory.
So, at what stage is the divine not considered?
The material.
In the material?
In the material world, there is no divine.
Very good.
Only matter is the reality. Then, it depends on what you mean by the divine. There is the impersonal divine and there is the personal divine.
Yes.
In many philosophies, the personal divine doesn't exist. There is no God. There are planes of perfection, planes of peace, planes of power, planes of ananda, and these are far superior to what is available in the physical world. Buddhism, Mayavada, all these are also, they say that there is no God. There are planes of consciousness where divine qualities are there, but no God. So, with this, we now come to what we have to read today. He has already discussed the supra-terrestrial. The supra-terrestrial means the As I said, you can call it Satchidananda, you can call it Nirvana, you call it whatever it is, the transcendental, but that's the only reality, the rest is all unreal. Now he comes to the opposite, the materialistic view. We read the para, and if necessary, we'll come back to it. The cosmic terrestrial view, which we may take next as the exact opposite of the supracosmic, considers cosmic existence as real. It goes farther and accepts it only as the only reality, and its view is confined ordinarily to life in the material universe. There is no other universe, so there is only material universe. Sometimes there may be, a materialist may admit that other planes also exist, but normally, that's why I was saying ordinarily, the life is confined to the material universe. God, if God exists, is an eternal becoming. The only reality is a becoming. And what's a becoming? Movement. Constant movement, unceasing movement, perpetual movement. Or, if God does not exist, then nature. Whatever view we may take of nature, okay, you can consider nature to be conscious, you can consider nature to be unconscious, whatever you want, but that is the life is related to only the material world. Whether we regard it as a play of force with matter, or a great cosmic life, or even admit a universal impersonal mind in life and matter. So Srila is giving us three theories. Whatever we may take of matter, whether we regard it as a play of force with matter, is the materialistic view, the scientific view, or a great cosmic life. This is referring to Bergson's theory of élan vital. Life is the most important thing. Okay? Then the third one is the universal impersonal mind. René Descartes, who says that I think, therefore I am. So these three theories are there, but they are all related to the physical world. Or admit a universal impersonal mind in life and matter is a perennial becoming. It's a constant movement and constant change, transience. Earth is the field, or it is one of the temporary fields. Man is the highest possible form, or only one of the temporary forms of the becoming. Now, what does it mean by that? There are other forms of becoming. There is matter, which is also a becoming. There is also life with animals and plants, that also is a becoming. So man is not only the highest, he is the highest possible form, and only one of the temporary forms of the becoming. Man individually may be altogether mortal. Mankind also may survive only for a certain short period of the earth's existence. Earth itself may bear life only for a rather longer period of its duration in the solar system. That system may itself one day come to an end, or at least cease to be an active or productive factor in the becoming. So all these possibilities are there. Even science says that one day the sun will exhaust its energy and die out. The conception that the sun could be eternal energy is not there in science. Okay, so and even if the sun dies out, there can be other, but the solar system then may suffer, because the sun is the one that gives all the energy to all the planets. If that energy is not there, the planets cannot survive. No one can survive without the heat of the sun. Man cannot, plants cannot, animals cannot. So it is temporary. Even the universe is temporary.
But Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, the sun from which we kindle all our suns.
Yes, but that's the spiritual sun,
Yes,
not the physical
that's
sun.
the spiritual sun.
Okay, so man individual may be altogether mortal. Mankind also may survive only for a certain short period of the Earth's existence. Earth itself may bear life only for a rather longer period of its duration in the solar system. That system may itself one day come to an end, or at least cease to be an active or productive factor in the becoming. The universe we live in may itself dissolve or contract into the seed state of its energy. Now, this is an interesting concept, what somebody is saying. If science says that there is an expansion of the universe, that's what they say, they found that the universe is expanding. And so they calculate that if it is expanding, at what rate and how much has it gone, then they conceptually think of a beginning of the universe. So they rate it as 14 billion years. Okay? So if it expands, it can also contract. It's only natural, it's a becoming. So that was simply saying the universe we live in may itself dissolve or contract again into the seed state of its energy. Both are possible in the materialistic view. But the principle of becoming is eternal, or at least as eternal as anything can be in the obscure ambiguity of existence. We really don't know. We know that yes, there is permanent movement in the physical world, but more than that we know nothing. From where has it come, where is it going, what is the end, how is it at all existing, all this we don't know. It is indeed possible to suppose a persistence of man, the individual, as a psychic entity in time, a continuous terrestrial or cosmic ensouling or reincarnation without any afterlife or other life elsewhere. In that case, one may either suppose an ideal of constantly increasing perfection or approach to perfection, or a growth towards an enduring felicity somewhere in the universe as the aim of this endless becoming. This sentence needs to be looked at carefully. So Srimati is saying, even if you are a materialist, it's possible to conceive of a soul which is coming and occupying the physical body. So he says, it is indeed possible to suppose a persistence of man, the individual, as a psychic entity in time. So how can a materialist admit psychic entity? Because he sees that there are many subtle forms of matter. There is water which is more subtle than matter. There is air which is even more subtle than that. There is smoke. There are clouds. So if there is a subtlety, you can carry the concept of subtlety even more. And you can think of a subtle soul which is entering into man. So that's what he's saying. It's possible to suppose the persistence of man, the individual, as a psychic entity in time. Now note the word psychic entity.
Yes.
Srinath is not talking of the psychic. He is talking of the psychological entity in time. Okay? A materialist will not admit psychic. So here it is psychological. Okay? After all, there are thoughts, there are emotions. It's a product of matter, but it is subtler. So therefore, it's possible for a materialist to think of a subtle soul. Call it a soul, call it whatever you want, entity. A psychic entity in time, a continuous terrestrial or cosmic ensouling or reincarnation without any afterlife or other life elsewhere. In that case, one may suppose so. In other words, the materialist can conceive of a soul, call it a soul, a subtle entity which is coming into it. But there is no previous life, there is no other life. The materialist admits that there is life, but it's only one life. Each man has got only one life. That's what is meaning. Without any afterlife or other life elsewhere. In that case, one may either suppose an ideal of constantly increasing perfection or approach to perfection or a growth towards an enduring felicity somewhere in the universe as the aim of this endless becoming. What he's saying is, suppose the materialist admits that there is a psychic entity, a psychological entity. What's the aim of life? That's what he's asking. Okay? So the aim of life can be, okay, an ideal of constantly increasing perfection. The materialist can definitely agree that there is a scale of perfection here. He sees matter and then he sees life. Life is certainly more perfect than matter. And then there is man with a mind who is more perfect than animal. So perfection is possible even in the materialistic world. Perfection.
Even to the materialist.
Yes. He is talking only of the materialist principle.
Yes.
The whole paragraph is only material. Next also. So, it's possible for a materialist to think that there is a sense of perfection here. So, although I have only one life, let me be as perfect as I can be. And that also how? Materially, vitally, mentally. So, you can have a very great intellectual who is a writer or a theorist or whatever, but he is a materialist. It's possible. So what would be his aim? To achieve something which will be a contribution to the perfection in the physical world, either in literature or in a scientific discovery or whatever. The inventor of the mobile may not have been he may have been a pakka materialist, but he has done something for mankind. So he has done something for mankind. So that is a perfection. Okay? Even the others who have thought of other things, literature, poetry, okay? It's possible that a materialist can be a poet. It's possible. So that's what he's saying, that perfection either materially or at the vital level in art. I'm a materialist, but I like form. So I create a Mona Lisa, or I create a David in sculpture. So it's possible. So this is the aim of life for a materialist. Slightly more than someone who is living only for materialist enjoyments. Okay, so that's what Swami is saying here. And he develops this theme elsewhere also. Okay, so in that case, one may either suppose an ideal, he can have an ideal of constantly increasing perfection, or approach to perfection, or a growth towards an enduring felicity somewhere in the universe as the aim of this endless becoming. Okay? Or even if I am a materialist, I may do something not for myself but for mankind. I plant an apple tree. I am not going to enjoy it, but it will be a contribution to the world. So, scientific inventions, literature, poetry, sculptures, artistic things. You are not doing it for yourself, you are doing it for mankind. Sense of perfection, going towards perfection. Okay, sorry. But in an extreme terrestrial view, this is the difficulty tenable. So, an extreme terrestrial view, there is no soul. So, there cannot be any sense of perfection in that sense. So, a pakka materialist, one who is totally materialist, he will say that there is no question of perfection. Evolution there is, but it's a chance. Things are coming out. By chance there is a mutation of cells and there is different types of species are being produced. That's what he will say. That's what Swami is saying here. But in an extreme terrestrial view, when the materialist is absolutely a materialist, this is with difficulty terrible. Sense of perfection will not be there. Certain speculations of human thought have tended in this direction, but they have not taken a substantial body. Not been very successful. The perpetual persistence in the becoming is usually associated with the acceptance of a greater supra-terrestrial existence. So, if you think that there is a permanence in the becoming, then you will normally admit that there is a greater supra-terrestrial existence. Normally accepted. You may be a materialist, but you may agree that there is psychological entity. You call it a soul or whatever you want. Okay, so I'll read the summary and we go to the next para. Now we come to the cosmic terrestrial theory. In normal parlance, we may call it the materialistic view. This theory is the direct contradiction of the supracosmic theory. Its conception is that the cosmic existence is real. Unlike Buddhism and the Mayavada, it can go even further and insist that the material world is the only reality. Okay. There are many variations, of this broad-based theory, and we can look at some of them. One case, if God exists, if God exists, the subtle worlds do not exist, but God can. He is nothing but the becoming. You call it God, an everlasting transience of movement and change. Pantheism could be included in this view. There is something, there is a perfection, but the materialist view is the matter is the only reality. Or nature is the only reality and it's a play of force. Here too, minor variations are possible. So a scientist may say, everything in the physical world is only a play of force. Because science is admitting that matter is force. So energy, he will call it energy, not force. And what are these possibilities? Nature is force playing with matter. Nature is producing all sorts of material objects, stones, but also plants, and also animals, and also men. So there is one view. Life too is a force, creating forms with the assistance of matter. Elan Vital, Bergson. Then there can be an impersonal mind as the last ultimate principle, René Descartes. I think, therefore I am. In the last time we discussed, in the Thoughts and Aphorisms, Sremdo says, I exist not because I am a body, I exist not because I am life, I exist not because I am the mind, but I exist because I am a soul. That is Sremdo's view. He goes one step more. Whatever the minor divergent views, they all agree that the reality is a perennial becoming. It's a constant movement here. There is nothing stable. Again, in this category, there are some variations. The earth is a field of force in action, and man is the last product. Nothing beyond man. There is perfection, but man is the last. Man is the last product. Mankind may disappear, but the world will exist forever. Even earth may disappear, but the mutable world will last forever. Earth may disappear, but the universe won't. That's another possibility. Even the cosmos may come to an end, but the becoming will continue to exist and produce another cosmos. That also another view possible. All materialistic views. Then next one. In this flexible aggregate of views, man may also exist forever in a subtle psychic condition, without existence anywhere else. Even reincarnation could be possible, but without life in other worlds, as they do not exist. So a materialist may concede that there can be reincarnation of something which I am calling a soul, but that soul is only a formation of force. He could say that. In this last scenario, it is possible to conceive of gradual evolving perfection in the material world. Some views have indeed posited such a possibility, but to a hardcore materialist, this is not acceptable. For him, there is only a constant mutation of forms without any goal or a graduated evolution towards perfection. Then evolution is not perfection. Evolution is just a result of a mutation of atoms and molecules and whatever you want. So these are the theories possible in the materialistic view. We go to the next para. In the ordinary view of a sole terrestrial life, or a restricted transient passage in the material universe. So, we have to see what is meaning. A soul terrestrial life means that even if there is a soul, okay, it has got only one life on earth. That's what it means by soul terrestrial life, or a restricted transient passage in a material universe. Now is a very interesting thing. He says, for possibly there may be thinking living beings in other planets. The other day you were asking. So he is conceding that it's possible that there are other planets. And beings are coming from there, entering in the physical world with one life and going back there. That's what he's saying. It's possible. Okay, so in fact now it is so many stories of the flying saucers, unidentified objects. Okay, unidentified flying objects. What do you call it?
UFO.
UFO, unidentified flying object. So, you're saying it's possible. An acceptance of man's mortality and a passive endurance of it, or an active dealing with a limited personal and collective life and life aims, are the only choice possible. So, ordinary view of terrestrial life is you have one life and you have to make do with that. So, an acceptance of man's mortality and a passive endurance of it, okay, or an active dealing with a limited personal or collective life and life aims. So, if a man is a materialist, he can still have some ideals. Let me live beautifully, let me live morally. Okay, that would be his contribution, personal, limited personal or collective life. If I think of collective life, let me do something which is useful for mankind. I have only one life, but let me do something for mankind. As I said, I plant a tree, okay, it will give 5 generations, it will give fruits. Or let me invent something, a mobile, a TV, okay, or let me write a poem. So these are, even materialists can have slightly limited personal or collective life, and life aims are the only choice possible. The one high and reasonable course for the individual human being, unless indeed he is satisfied with pursuing his personal purposes or somehow living his life until it passes out of him. Now, Shamla has used the word living his life. So, in other place, he has put living in life in inverted commas. So, what does he mean by living in life? Let me enjoy, I have got only one life, let me enjoy it to the full. That's what he means by living his life.
Would it be hedonism? Hedonism?
Yes. Hedonism, yeah. So enjoy. Let me enjoy as much as I can. Nothing else is important. Only one life is there, so why mourn and be unhappy? Let me be. So that's what he means by living his life. Somehow living his life until it passes out of him. Is to study. So I'll read the sentence without the parenthetical phrases. The one high and reasonable course for the individual human being is to study the laws of the becoming and take the best advantage of them to realize rationally or intuitionally, inwardly or in the dynamism of life, its potentialities in himself and for himself, or in or for the race of which he is a member. So, even if you are a materialist, let me live life as beautifully as I can. That's possible. Or let me live not for myself but for mankind. Okay. So humanitarianism, charity is very possible for a materialist. That's what he's saying. Okay. His business is to make the most of such actualities as exist. Whatever is there, let me make the most of it. And to seize on or to advance towards the highest possibilities that can be developed here or in the making. Here or are in the making. Only mankind as a whole can do this with entire effect by the mass of individual and collective action in the process of time, in the evolution of the a race experience. All the things that you do, the individual will not benefit, the race will benefit. Charity, invention of this, literature, poetry, sculpture, mankind is benefiting, not the individual. That's what Swami is saying. Okay? But the individual man can help towards it in his own limits, can do all these things for himself to a certain extent in the brief space of life allotted to him. But especially his thought and action can be a contribution towards the present intellectual, moral and vital welfare and the future progress of the race. So he can do something which will be of use intellectually. He may be a philosopher, he may be a scientist, he may be anything. Or morality. He may give new ideas of justice, of freedom, okay, and vital welfare and the future progress of the race. He is capable of a certain nobility of being. The materialist can be noble in his way of looking at things. An acceptance of his inevitable and early individual annihilation does not preclude him from making high use of the will and thought which have been developed in him, or from directing them to great ends which shall or may be worked out by humanity. So Swami is saying that a materialist can have great ideals which he can put forward. Say, let us do this, let us improve this, and leave it for mankind to work it out. So he can give an idea and it can be worked out. Okay. Even the temporary character of the collective being of humanity does not so very much matter, except in the most materialistic view of existence. Even the temporary character of the collective being of humanity does not so very much matter, except in the most materialistic view of existence. For so long as the universal becoming takes the form of human body and mind, the thought, the will it has developed in its human creature will work itself out, and to follow that intelligently is the natural law and best rule of human life. So, again the same thing, that a materialist can live nobly, it's possible. Humanity and its welfare and progress during its persistence on earth provide the largest field and natural limits for the terrestrial aim of our becoming. There you are, humanity and its welfare. So, charity, humanitarianism, okay, all these things are possible for a materialist. Progress during its persistence on earth provide the largest field and the natural limits for the terrestrial aim of our being. The superior persistence of the race and the greatness and importance of the collective life should determine the nature and scope of our ideals. So, do the best you can for mankind. But if the progress or welfare of humanity be excluded as not our business or as a delusion, the individual is there, okay, to achieve his greatest possible perfection or make the most of his life in whatever way his nature demands, will then be life's significance. So, again the same thing. I don't care for mankind, all these things don't exist for me. Let me enjoy my life to the best of my ability. I am reading the summary of what he is saying here. Okay, so, in this theory of the exclusive material life being solely real, is there any significance or purpose to worldly life? That's what he is discussing. The chapter is aim of life and the four theories. So if you are a materialist, can there be an aim? That's what Swami is asking and answering. So many different types of aims can be there. The individual has only one brief life and he has to accept his mortality and make do with the best he can of it. What choices does he have? So these are the choices that Swami is describing. Okay? The first one, the ordinary man enjoys life with whatever nature and world can give him. He can lead a life of egoistic hedonism. His life has no value for mankind. This is one possibility. His aim in life is to enjoy. Second, if he is more developed and conscious, he can try to develop himself in body, life and mind as best as he can and leave the world a little bit better than when he entered into it. How? By his ideas, his thoughts, his discoveries, his inventions can benefit mankind. He may be transient, but his deeds and achievements can live longer in the history of mankind. Very clear. Okay. So, another possibility. If the individual is an idealist with noble ideas of service to mankind, he can so live his life. He may be mortal, but mankind is longer lived and it can continue its existence with the individual's noble contributions. And the individual's noble contributions can be physical, emotional through art, intellectuality through philosophy and theories. He may plant a fruit tree for posterity to enjoy. He may make scientific discoveries or invent gadgets to benefit mankind. So many different types of things are possible. This is the maximum that life on earth can have an aim for the materialist. Okay? So,
We
he
can
has
do.
discussed two theories,
Yeah.
and now he is going to discuss the supra-terrestrial view, the third one. So, this supra-terrestrial theory is the normal idea of spiritual life. There is a physical world which is real, there is a subtle world which is real, but the real divinity is in the subtle world and not in the physical world. This is the supra-terrestrial view. So, we read it. The supra-terrestrial view admits the reality of the material cosmos, and it accepts the temporary duration of earth and human life as the first fact we have to start from. But it adds to it a perception of other worlds or planes of existence which have an eternal or at least a more permanent duration. It perceives behind the mortality of the bodily life of man the immortality of the soul within him. So, in this theory, the soul of man is there. Okay. A belief in the immortality, the eternal persistence of the individual human spirit apart from the body is the key word of this conception of life. So, a belief in the immortality, the eternal persistence of the individual human spirit. Man has a soul and that soul is eternal. Okay, it is immortal. That of itself necessitates its other belief in higher planes of existence than the material or terrestrial. Okay? So, necessarily, if they admit that there is a divine soul in man, may not be divine, but a soul, then there are other planes, subtler planes of existence, necessarily. That of itself necessitates its other belief in higher planes of existence than the material or terrestrial. Since, why? Simple is answering. Since, for a disembodied spirit, there can be no abiding place in a world whose very operation depends upon some play of force, whether spiritual, mental, vital, or material, in and with the forms of matter. So, the soul cannot live forever in the physical world. The soul being not physical, it has to go to non-physical worlds. That's the argument. How can a soul live in the physical world forever? It can't. Once it has dropped its body, it cannot live here, it has no body. So it has to go to the supra-physical worlds. Okay, necessarily. Whether spiritual, mental, vital or material. In and with the forms of matter. There arises from this view of things the idea that the true home of man is beyond and that the earth life is in some way or other only an episode of his immortality or a deviation from the celestial and spiritual into a material existence. So, the soul is there and he has come from subtler worlds, but when he comes here, it's a field where he is preparing himself. But the true home of man is there. Okay? And here you have an episode, or you may have various episodes, and it's a deviation. when you are in the physical world, your nature, the soul nature is not there in the physical world. That's what he's saying.
You want to read the summary?
Yes. Now we come to the third theory, the supra-terrestrial. Here, now note the word interestingly, supra-cosmic and supra-terrestrial. The first theory is supra-cosmic, above the cosmos. But this is supra-terrestrial. That means beyond the physical world, not the cosmic world. Okay, so here the reality of the physical world is admitted, but in addition, there are other subtler planes of existence. These are more permanent than the physical. Here, man has a soul which is immortal. His body, life, and mind are constructions of nature which the soul occupies temporarily. The individual has his real home in the supra-terrestrial, but takes birth in the cosmos for experience. This experience is usually conceived as a deviation or a fall from his celestial state above the world. So when he comes down to the physical world, it's a drop. In consciousness, it's a drop of his nature. You have the same idea of, in the Christian theory also, that man was banished from heaven. And in the Hindu tradition, when you are coming down here, you have lost your divine nature.
We can read the next para.
Okay. So now Srila is discussing the character of this word, this theory. We read it. But what then is the character, the origin, and the end of this deviation? The soul is supra-terrestrially more perfect than when it is here. But what is causing the deviation? What is causing the ignorance? There is first the idea of certain religions, long persistent, but now greatly shaken and discredited, that man is a being primarily created as a material living body upon earth, into which a newly born divine soul is breathed, or else with which it is associated by the fiat of an almighty creator. So, the Christian theory, there is a body which is created and a soul enters into it. Okay? So, it's a different thing. And it's a one-time life. Okay, so, and that soul has to complete whatever it has to do in this one life. If it lives well, it will go to heaven. If it doesn't live well and does wrong things, it will go to hell. So, a solitary episode, this life is his one opportunity from which he departs into a world of eternal bliss or to a world of eternal misery, either according as the general or preponderant balance of his acts is good or evil, or according as he accepts or rejects, knows or ignores a particular creed, mode of worship, divine mediator, or else according to the arbitrary predestining caprice of his creator. So, this is very interesting. He is including here Christianity and Islam also. If you don't believe in Muhammad, you are sure to go to hell. If you don't believe in Christ, there is no chance of redemption for the soul. These are the theories that is. I read that carefully, you will see that he is referring to Christianity and Islam. A solitary episode, this life is his one opportunity from which he departs to a world of eternal bliss or to a world of eternal misery, heaven and hell, either according as the general or preponderant balance of his acts is good or evil, or according as he accepts or rejects, knows or ignores a particular creed, mode of worship, divine mediator, or else according to the arbitrary predestining caprice of his creator. But that is the supra-terrestrial theory of life in its least rational form of questionable creed and dogma. So, this is very, very irrational. Okay. Taking the idea of the creation of a soul by the physical birth as our starting point, we may still suppose that by a natural law common to all, the rest of its existence has to be pursued beyond, in a supra-terrestrial plane, where the soul has shaken off from it its original matrix of matter, like a butterfly escaped from the chrysalis and disporting itself in the air on its light and colored wings. Beautiful. Poetry. Or we may suppose, preferably, a pre-terrestrial existence of the soul, a fall or descent into matter, and a reascension into celestial being. If we admit the soul's pre-existence, there is no reason to exclude this last possibility as an occasional spiritual occurrence. A being belonging to another plane of existence may conceivably assume for some purpose the human body and nature. But this is not likely to be the universal principle of earth existence or a sufficient rationale for the creation of the material universe. So Semla is saying that it may be, if we think that a being is taking birth into the physical world and that being is from another world, he is referring to souls which exist in the supra-physical worlds but who take birth here. They are typal beings and who take birth. He has given one example of Shelley. Shelley was not an evolutionary being.
Right.
He was a typal being from the psychic worlds and he took birth in the physical world. So Swami is referring to that.
Are there others?
He has not given specific, but it is possible. They can come down. They live there permanently, but they can come down here, help and go back. Okay, so I'll read the summary.
Summary.
So, but then, what is the nature, the origin and the culmination of this deviation into the physical world of the human soul? So he is saying, third theory is that a human soul is there and it is coming into the physical world, and when it comes into the physical world, it is losing its divine character. So why is it losing its divine character? What is the reason why it is doing so? That's what he is discussing. Here, there are two possibilities. The first case is when the soul does not have a prenatal existence. The second case is when the soul has an existence before entering into physical birth. Okay? So, the first case when the soul does not have a prenatal existence. It has not come down into the physical world the first time. This is the case of the typal beings taking birth in the physical world. Or a soul which has got a lot of past lives, it is taking birth. Two cases. Okay? In the first case, as in the Christian religion, the human soul is created by God by a fiat, caprice or will, when a physical body is prepared by nature. This idea, though quite discredited now, is that the soul has one single life on earth and at the end is either sent to heaven, eternal enjoyment, or to hell, eternal punishment or suffering, according to its deeds in the world. Okay? This is the European idea of karma or its beliefs. Okay? Only Christ can save. Or you have to believe in only Muhammad. This theory is the least rational and raises many legitimate questions with no credible answers. But if the soul has a prenatal existence, that means it has existed before in the physical world, then the world can be seen as a field of a fall, Christian theory, a descent, Vedantic Indian idea. But in this case, the soul's sojourn on earth and subsequent exist does not really explain the necessity of the creation of a physical world. So in other words, even in a spiritual world, why does the soul have to come down here and then go again back to where it came from? The existence of the physical world is not explained. It's a mystery. To put it more graphically, I give you the example of I go to Chennai and come back without doing anything. Then why on earth did I go there? If I go there and do some work and come back, then there is a meaning for the existence of Chennai. So exactly in the same way, when a soul comes down here, and the only aim is to go back, release. What is the purpose? The world has no purpose. So that is where Srivastava's theory comes in. Okay? So that's what he's saying. That's it.
Thank you, Ranga.
Okay.
Namaste, all. Quite an extraordinary evening. And we'll see you again on Saturday for the continuance of the chapter, The Aim of Life, 4 Theories of Existence, page 699.